Welcome back to Mile High Huddle SI. I am your host, Kim Becker, joined as always by Chad Jensen, publisher of Mile High Huddle. Chad, the NFL had a slew of injuries coming out of week 2, and unfortunately, the Denver Broncos were no exception. Starting quarterback Drew Lock is out for 2 to 6 weeks with a shoulder injury, which means Jeff Driskel is now the captain of this ship. How are these Broncos going to keep the season alive until Drew Lock returns?
Well, the good news is Vic Fangio's defense is stingy. And even without guys like Von Miller and AJ Bouye, they're going to keep the team in these games. So really it just devolves onto Jeff Driskel and Pat Shurmur, the offensive coordinator, making some magic. And honestly, if you watch the game in week 2 at Pittsburgh, it took a little getting going in the second quarter. But by the time the Broncos adjusted at halftime with Driskel as the quarterback and came out in the second half, man, it was a completely different team. So there is hope that Pat Shurmur and Jeff Driskel can kind of make some magic. But really, if this thing's going to stay afloat, Pat Shurmur's going to have to kind of duplicate some of the 2017 magic he had in Minnesota, because in that season, nobody expected the Vikings to be able to continue to compete when Sam Bradford went down, because it was Case Keenum who had, up to that point in his career, done next to nothing in terms of bringing home wins as a starting quarterback, as a stopgap kind of veteran journeyman. But thanks to the magic quarterback whisperer, dust, whatever you want to call it, from Pat Shurmur, he was able to elevate Keenum to a point where he played Pro Bowl caliber, extremely efficient quarterback for the Vikings. And, they advanced all the way to the NFC Championship game. And even, in fact, got Case Keenum paid and got Pat Shurmur his second head coaching job. So I don't think, obviously, in this case, it's not a season-long implication with Lock being down. It's a 2 to 6 week window, as you said. But Pat Shurmur's going to have to dig deep, go back to the old toolbox, figure out what worked in terms of on the fly, kind of structuring things around his backup skill set and getting out there and figuring out how to make hay on game day. And, it's a sum of their parts type situation as well. The good news is, if you watch that second half at Pittsburgh, there is a smorgasbord of talent on the offensive side, even without Cortland Sutton, who was also one of the casualties this past week of the injury bug. So I'm optimistic the Broncos can, if they can get just one win between now and week 6, when I think the team is kind of hopeful Lock can return, they'll be in a decent position with that many games and weeks left to go to get right back into the thick of things.
Well, let's see what these Denver Broncos can pull out for week 3 against the Buccaneers. Chad, thanks so much for the insight.